All right, man, let's talk about some Detroit Pistons to close the night out. Derrick Rose probably won't be traded unless he requests a trade from the Detroit Pistons, according to a Bleacher Report article and writer. I'll link that article in the description. And the Pistons have interest in Toronto Raptors guard Fred VanVleet in free agency. So maybe they can work a deal out to Andre in Toronto and get Fred VanVleet in return. Let's talk a little bit about Derrick Rose first, but we back. Motor City Sports Talk. It's your boy CJ Goodfella. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, bell icon button, share the videos. Appreciate the love, support, man. And don't forget to check out my other channel, Goodfella Sports TV, for more sports, music, news, and entertainment. I got you handled outside Detroit over there. Once again, that's Goodfella Sports TV. And let's talk about Derrick Rose now. Derrick Rose is said not to be traded unless he requests a trade. And I think one of the things about Derrick Rose, before I get into detail, and I'll put that article link in the description as well, too, is I think Derrick Rose wants to be close to Chicago. I think that's why at one point he was in Minnesota. He was in Cleveland, I believe. And that's why he in Detroit. I think he has a family member that plays at UD Mercy. And I think he just want to be close to Chicago. When he was in New York, he ended up leaving the team for a minute with some personal issues. And, he got to continue to play and stay healthy because of the Adidas contract is feeding his family. His best friend is getting paid off of him, and his brother is getting paid off Adidas. So he came in some great shape. I think he was more than the Pistons could have expected this year. And without Derrick Rose, and due to all the other injuries, he been, one of the more consistent players. He been a surprise. Without him, man, we might not have the 13, 14 wins we got now. That was a huge signing, and he had pretty much one hell of a bounce back year. He can be up there in the 6th man of the year candidate, and with Lewis Williams, and he can be comeback player of the year. He playing at a tremendous level right now. But one of the reasons they talked about him coming to Detroit is because one of the chairmen, Arn Tellerman, hopefully I said his name right, was his agent at one point in time. So he got a relationship with him. I believe he was LaMarcus Aldridge's agent as well, too. And when Aldridge was, a free agent, I think, and he was, before he went back to San Antonio, it was talks about maybe that Arn Tellerman guy can get LaMarcus Aldridge to Detroit. But obviously he went back to San Antonio, and Derrick Rose got a tremendous amount of respect. And that's one of the reasons they point out in the article that Derrick Rose is here in Detroit. So there's no signs that Derrick Rose want to trade. I don't think he want to be traded out to L.A. or somewhere far away from Chicago. I think as far as he would want to go would be Milwaukee. You know what I'm saying? And they is the closest, city to Chicago that's a championship contender. You can look at Indiana, but I don't think they're a contender. I think they one big player away from being a contender with Oladipo coming back healthy. So, shout out to Derrick Rose for sticking it out. I would think a guy like him would try to be part of a championship run and really boost his character and boost his, his comeback story. But for him, he probably just want to play, and he hooping. And obviously, you want to go to the playoffs and you want to be on the stage, but I think being close to home is a priority for Derrick Rose. And also, he got like a cousin or somebody that's playing at UD Mercy or was going to play there. I don't know if they end up doing it. I think the Free Press ended up doing an article on it. So, for D Rose, like I said, he been all that in the bag of chips for the Pistons to take it back to the 90s. And I think for him, I think just being close home to Chicago is a priority. Now, let's talk a little bit about Fred VanVleet. I'll put an article in there as well. It's believed that the Pistons may try to get after Fred VanVleet in free agency, and maybe that's probably why they're trying to clear some cap space off. Obviously, Reggie Jackson, he injured. He can't be traded while injured unless they do some type of waiver or whatever. So you'll have Reggie money coming off the books, and then you will have Drummond money if they move Drummond and get expiring contract money coming off the books, or he just stay and get off the books, and they looking to bring in Fred VanVleet is the rumor, and Fred VanVleet is a very gifted and shifty guard. Now, Fred VanVleet, he did have problems with length, and he struggled in that Milwaukee series, but at some point, he figured out how to get his shot off, and, he figuring out in the league how to be shifty and crafty. Obviously, you see he worked out with the Pistons when he came out, I think, of Wichita State. But, Fred VanVleet, he ain't the prototypical point guard, but he can shoot. I think the Pistons need a dynamic true point guard, or what they consider a true point guard today, like Russell, or maybe Chris Paul. That's an old school traditional guy, a guy that can get up and down the floor and push it. But Fred VanVleet is that combination guard, and pretty much that's what today's guard is a combination guard. But he ain't super athletic, but he will be an upgrade from Reggie Jackson for sure. He ain't big and strong, and Reggie just look like, he looked like an NBA player, man, but he just can't stay healthy. When he healthy, he can't put it together. But I think Fred VanVleet, I don't think he the answer as a starting guard for the Pistons, or that guard. You would have to have that guard next to him to help him stand out. But I think the Pistons kind of need, a Luka Doncic type of guard, a Russell type of guard that's going to stand out, man. They need that long, athletic guard, and I hate to say it, LaMelo Ball is coming out. I watched a kid from Georgia yesterday that could be the number one pick. He seemed to be pretty good. You got some athletic guys out there, but I think the Pistons need to get more athletic and younger at the guard position. Fred VanVleet pretty young. He can shoot it, but I kind of look at him as a Vinny Johnson type of guy, kind of what Luke Kennard is. He kind of can heat up off the bench, get you a few buckets, but he wouldn't be my absolute answer at guard. He would have to be part of a collective group to really boost the guards up. But in my opinion, he definitely an upgrade. I definitely love to have him in Detroit, but I think the Pistons need what they version of Luka, they version of that athletic guard that can get a bucket and that can facilitate. And like I said, a guy named LaMelo Ball. I know people don't want to deal with his daddy, but his daddy ain't gonna come to Detroit talking all that greasy stuff. I'm telling you that right now. His daddy ain't gonna come to Detroit talking slick. He gonna end up on the back of a milk carton. So if LaMelo go to LA, that's when I would worry. But him going to Detroit, I wouldn't worry about LeVar too much, especially outside the first year. But also, it's an option for them to trade Andre Drummond and try to acquire Fred VanVleet. You know what I'm saying? They got Marc Gasol contract. He a little hurt. It's expiring. Serge Ibaka contract expiring. So maybe if they could swing a deal and give Fred VanVleet back for Andre Drummond, and they feel they can re-sign Fred VanVleet in the summer, then maybe that's something they'll do, so they don't have to wait till next summer and compete against several other teams, and they kind of can get a rental year with Fred VanVleet and show them how great of a city Detroit is. And, I think that's something they may think about. Maybe they discussed it with Toronto. I'm not sure if Atlanta going to acquire Dre, but it could be a Drummond for Fred VanVleet type of deal. Ibaka got a contract that match up with Drummond, and you put a couple players in there that make it fit. Maybe that's something that worked for the Pistons. I don't know if the Raptors plan on bringing Fred VanVleet back at a certain amount of dollar amount, and if they consider giving him extension or he's eligible for that. That's something that they had to look at. But you know what? I can see VanVleet and Derrick Rose doing some damage. You know what I'm saying? He been pretty durable. Fred VanVleet, maybe a couple injuries here and there, but I like the situation. But they need to find their dynamic wing and guard. It would be nice to have Chris Middleton and Spencer Dinwiddie here, because they kind of fit the mold. Two long guards, interchangeable on defense. Dinwiddie doing a really good job taking over for Kyrie right now in Brooklyn and creating and getting to the basket. He just needed some time to let that knee heal and figure out the game. And Middleton, he's solid. He can shoot it. He can defend it. That would be one hell of a rangy backcourt, especially on the defensive end. And offensively, they can get it. You put them with Andre Drummond with the shooting and spacing and the penetration and playmaking from Spencer Dinwiddie and the shooting from Chris Middleton. I mean, at that point, I wouldn't get rid of Andre Drummond if I had them two with him. You know what I'm saying? If you can add a Blake with that. The Pistons done had good players that pretty much learned here and developed and produced other places. And they passed up on the Bookers, and they passed up on the Giannis's of the world, and they passed up on a lot of different good guys, Donovan Mitchell, and they don't know what a diamond in the rough look like. Even if they pick them by mistake, they end up leaving Detroit and going to produce somewhere else. And that's why you should tank and get high in the draft, so you don't have that many selections, so you can see a diamond standing out. So that's my whole thing about it. Shout out to D Rose if he's sticking there. He a real one for that one, man. And I look forward to him, pushing for comeback player of the year, pushing Lewis Williams for sixth man of the year award, and just completely balling out of his mind, man. Derrick Rose has been everything and more I think anybody can hope for. And it's a great comeback story, and hopefully the Pistons can get healthy and they can start getting some wins if they choose to keep Dre, so people can see how great Derrick Rose is. But Fred VanVleet, I wouldn't want to get to the trade market. If I can exchange something for him, trade something for him, I'll be looking to get him via trade. But hey, it's Motor City Sports Talk. Let me know what you guys think. I'll drop some article links proving these stories to be true. Just saying they're rumors. Don't forget we on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Reach out to the email if you have a business question, inquiry, sponsorship, video request. All my social media contact information in the description. Share the video. Don't forget to check my other channel, All Goodfellas Sports TV. It's the best donation you can make. And share the video one time for the one.